What's going on, guys? It's Madman Plant, and we are here in the podcast studio. I got myself and legendary Leafies Steven here, our bronze sponsor, and today we are just chilling out in the lab. Bring me over King Palm over there. Yep. King Palm is a smoke sponsor, so what that means is they... Ooh, I can hear that the audio works in the podcast, so if you guys are wondering, yes, the audio does work. And you are 100% right. The black background with the lights off, what a difference.
Oh, my, like,
everything pops, even our shirts.
Yeah, incredible difference. That's why I was like, I told you before, I was like, man, I know it's not my gig, it's not my place, but, bro, this was great. Like, yeah, definitely looks good.
So we were here earlier today. We set up the second trellis. So now upstairs in the grow studio, all trellises are up. And I had the chiller now. Now, we did not do the chiller because I'm going to get another trash can. So I have 70 gallons. And I'm going to empty my reservoir into the trash can so I can reuse it. That way it doesn't shock the system. I can put exactly what I took out back in, and then I can top off with new stuff. I do plan on flipping the flower here next week and really getting these plants stretched out. With the trellis net, I have a little bit more forgiveness time. I don't have to worry about the direct height as I can worry about that spread. And those grids are 5 by 5 each, so they work out nice. But while we're here, I'm going to smoke a King Palm. Now, do you like King Palms? Do you smoke King Palms?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was the first one that I had here, remember? And, yeah, I loved it. I mean, it had the smoothness and everything of a cigar, and it was just like, oh, I've done this before. You know what I mean? Like, having not done it before, I felt like I had done it before, so I was like, yeah, this is definitely a comfortable smoke, good flavor, like, good burn, and I was just like, okay. So, yeah, I enjoyed it.
Just like a shirt, you let it burn.
Let it burn. Although, you know, there's speculation on what exactly was burning.
I thought it was his love. Get your mind out of the gutter. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
We got ourselves a can of Scoop. And you're in talks with Can of Scoop about doing some collabs. Pretty cool.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So
we're gonna chat more about it for sure.
All right. So King Palms are my favorite one because they don't have nicotine now, or tobacco. Now, they do have a brand of tobacco if you do like that. Personally, I do not. So let's get the Can of Scoop locked in here. Boom, boom, boom. And just start pushing away. I wish I knew where my chopstick was. It has a way thinner point where I can really go in.
What's it look like? Like an actual fucking chopstick?
Yeah.
No.
No, I just got this wood thing over here. It's about it. Actually, give me the wooden one. That one's so much better.
Okay.
Yeah, that little taper makes a difference. There we go.
Yeah, it just fits right down in there, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Lock that in, please.
And as you guys have noticed, psychedelic on the TV.
Yeah. I thought we'd put something trippy on the TV just to have something unique here as I get ready to smoke. So I thought we'd do a couple cool things with your cards here.
Yeah.
We're going to see how well you know your cards. I'm going to show you the card, but you can't see the name. And you got to tell me as much as you can about it by looking at it.
Gotcha.
Do you think you'd be up for the challenge?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. There's going to be some characters that you go through that are filler characters. You know what I mean? They're like the NPC of the storyline. Like, they may have a parody in terms of, you know, say one of them works at a market, and that's kind of all that, you know, that's all you see them when they go to the marketplace. Like, you'll see them selling stuff there, or situations like that, right? Similar scenarios. But the actual cornerstone characters of the show, yeah, I'm not gonna have any issue with that.
Good.
It's fortunately and unfortunately running through my mind like every day, all day, which is why I probably need to walk around with like a notebook to write down the ideas and the connections that I'm trying to establish within the show. Because it can literally go from like I build a character and then I see something out in town or I watch a TV show, movie, whatever, and then I'm like, ooh, I can actually use this style or this influence style or genre, insert whatever, and I can use that with the character that I just created. So, yeah, I have a book. I keep it at home. That's where I write like the more foundational pieces of the story inside of it. But occasionally, especially when I'm like out by myself, is when my mind just goes like a million different places. And that's when it's always gonna be like, oh damn it, I wish I had my little notebook. I could write that down.
Do you have the Memo app? It's free with the iPhone, and see, like when I want to if like sometimes when I'm like on different elevations, let's just say, there's things that I think that I want to remember later, right?
Yeah.
So what
You
I do,
open the Memo app and it's just
look,
nothing but freaking
right here. I push that button, and now I can start talking, and it'll record everything I say, and then bam, I'm done, and then I have all my recordings, and then you can get back to it later through going back to it, but it gives you the perception that, oh man, well maybe I couldn't write it down, but I can remember that, and then go back to the notepad later and connect it all.
Out,
yeah.
Imagine being in that state of mind and like thinking you're saying words, and then you go back to play it back, and it's just like you're just speaking nothing.
You'd be surprised though, you can actually do a lot, and if you're really in tune with yourself, it's a great way to be creative, especially since you're creating characters.
Yeah.
Different levels of let's say frequency
Yeah.
could really definitely play a big role in the creativity. I have a friend who's into anime. His name's Trip. He's on our Discord, and he's writing a comic book. And he's much like you, very three-dimensional with his world of characters. It's not just the character, it's the interactions. He's working like you are, where these characters have to go through certain things, or they have certain type of relationships, like falling in love, or getting connected, or how this evolves that. And that's what I love about the creative mind, is that it carries that, and you show the difference between who's just creating art and wants to create a product versus who's creating a story. And even though they're just cards right now, in the future it could be a movie, it could be a full-on anime series, and you already got all the groundwork, and pretty much all the details. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, I started out with like just the trading cards, and then I migrated to I have one comic book as far as like scripted and drawn and everything. And then that's after the comic book is when I was like, oh shit, like maybe I should turn this into an animated like cartoon series. You know what I mean? Cause there's the psychedelic one. Dang it. I can't remember. It's on Adult Swim. But it's about, mushrooms. And I'm like, okay, if they can have that show on there, like, I'm good. You know what I mean? So then I was like, oh, wow, I really need to heavily start scripting this anime, which forced me to build a lot of the foundation around the characters and, like, all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, there's characters in here that have been in these sets that have been redrawn, to, like, look better or look maybe more masculine or more feminine or more like a deity, because that's what they're going to actually represent in the show, alongside with some of the other characters that are new to the character introductions because of what they represent, whether it be like emotions or actual like fear, anger, just stuff like that. You know what I mean? To where like they're going to represent those things, and they're going to have like a really like blissful interaction, and by blissful I mean like a beautiful connection into what fear means to different people, because of how they're going to interact as the character of fear, how it interacts with characters differently, kind of paying homage to fear is going to touch everybody differently, going all the way back to it was either I want to say it was our first, maybe our second podcast together, where we said, and it was talking specifically about like cannabis, but being on a spectrum of cannabis, right? Well, I think everything in terms of emotion is the same thing. Like how you perceive fear is going to be totally different from how I perceive it. So it's like I'm going to introduce that to where some people, some characters are not going to be affected by fear. Some of them are going to be crippled by it. Some of them are going to be like, ooh, like, you know, hesitant. And it's just going to be this beautifully symbiotic correlation between emotions and the characters and what the characters represent and what the animated series as a story is really trying to portray in terms of cannabis education and the legal system behind it. So it's a lot of fun.
No, it is. And with that being said, that's what gives it the depth. And I think that's what people are going to be able to, you know, easily get attached to. It's not just the graphics, you know, and that's what I like about it. So let's do a little fun game here.
Yep.
So
there's quite a few repeats in there just because, you know,
that's fine. We're gonna do 10 cards.
Oh, perfect.
All right, let's see here.
Do you mind if I take a hit off that?
Oh, yeah, if you want to join, go for it. Absolutely. I actually need to give this one to my friend Yoda. He has smoked or grown mimosa before.
Oh, yeah. I thought he took the one.
No, this is the one that he wanted. He left it here. All right, so let's do... All right, that's one. Damn, the names are so like with the picture. This is hard because it's like everything is like looks like it should be named. It's like fuck, you know what I mean?
Well, and that's what I really love is like what I'm doing as a introduction is that nobody knows the value of one character. You know what I mean? So they're going to see the characters from a raw value and be like, actually, I like that character. Now, they may like that character more and or less depending on how the storytelling goes, their incorporation. But just in general, it's cool to see that what brought you to the show that's focused on education via characterization is a character. You know what I mean? Like something that you saw and said, whoa, what's that? And then it led you to be like, oh, there's more. Oh, they tell a story. Oh, and then it's just bing, 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 bing. Next thing you know a little bit more. And you got entertained. Like, that's why. So I at first I was like, on my website, I was like, okay.
I actually need to give this. I have a friend named Cheese.
Oh, really?
He's the MC at my event.
Nice. Yeah, at first I was like,
I picked it up.
Like I put cannabis education on the Instagram profile, and then like after really thinking about it, I was like, actually I'm just gonna put cannabis edutainment because it's entertainment and education, so just merge the words and call it edutainment.
All right, so this is the first card. So for those who can't see it, actually,
Yep.
let me bring it up to his camera. All right. What is this?
So that's Hayes.
All right.
Hayes is a really fun character just because he's inside of a mason jar, kind of paying homage a little bit to like the OG way of storing, right? But what Hayes really represents is just the traditional way, right? In terms of like how things used to be. What's really cool about what I'm going to do with the character Hayes, is that he's not necessarily going to be like a main character, but he's going to be one of the guys that's like intertwined within the show. He's kind of like that focal point at times, and you're actually going to see him relatively advance without giving away exactly how. But you're going to see him in a different light than what he currently is. And there'll be a reason for that will be discussed. But ultimately, he's one of those guys that think, if you're a Dragon Ball fan, think of like Tien. You know what I mean? He's not like the focal point, but he's definitely an attributable character. But there's never anything crazy controversial. He's just kind of always there.
Okay.
Like, and he's just not always there, but in terms of like consistency of character, you know what I mean? Like, he's just always he's always going to be there. Like, he's not one of the characters as of right now in terms of the way I'm scripting everything. I'm in like season 3 of scripting things. As of right now, I don't have him dying. But that's not to say things might not happen in season 4 or 5.
All right. So that is Haze. Very cool card. All right. Next one up is... Bam, bam. We'll show it to camera real quick.
Ah, yeah.
All right. And what is this one?
So that's MK Ultra. A direct correlation between the government conspiracy type stuff that MK Ultra represented, and he is actually the leader of the quote unquote enemy, or like what is going to represent the government policies pertaining to cannabis, and like the demonization of it and stuff like that. Like, that's what his character kind of represents. And he actually works with cheese, because government cheese, and then combining that with MK Ultra just to kind of feed the government conspiracy thing. But yeah, he's like the unsung hero of what in the show is the bad guy.
Okay.
Or the bad side. There'll be further developments with some of the leadership of the bad side. And that's, well, I can just tell you one of them. So, Fear, right? The character that I have for Fear. They, like I said, they're going to interact differently with different characters, and Fear is actually going to be the biggest part of what drives everything that the government did, right? And as it pertains to cannabis, right? So the making it illegal and
The reefer madness,
all of it,
all
right?
that.
Yeah. So fear is the biggest part of that, because I firmly believe the government feared that they couldn't control it. You know what I mean? So he's going to be always in NK Ultra's ear as like a, hey, do this, hey, do this. And that's going to kind of be like that little parrot on the shoulder type thing. You know what I mean? Think Jafar with his little parrot.
Yes.
You know, like
Aladdin,
But, yeah.
for those who don't remember.
Yeah. Think like that, right? And it's going to be a lot of fun in terms of like how the different emotions come together, they form together, and the things that they do to the characters that they interact with. Like, it's not always going to be a bad reaction. You know what I mean? Like, some characters might utilize fear for their own empowerment. Right.
True.
So think of the Majin Buu saga in Dragon Ball, where
Not familiar with it, but
okay,
let's go with it.
So Majin Buu, or Majin, Bibbidi or Bobbidi, whichever one.
Bibbidi Boo.
Yeah, no, that's kind of like the play on it, because the last character's name is Boo, so Bibbidi, Bobbidi, and Boo.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So it is bad things.
Yeah, but I want to say it's Bibbidi.
Yeah.
He possesses people, and it gives them like a crazy amount of power, but he's in control of them. So that's like the caveat to it, right? And Vegeta, which is the main, like Goku's best frenemy, he ends up accepting the possession from him to gain more power so that he could finally beat up Goku, even though they're kind of fighting on the same side. And he actually fights against the mind control aspect of it and beats it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And that's not as a fights against the mind control asset and beats it, but just in terms of utilizing something within the show to make yourself more powerful. Like, I have it to where a couple characters are going to use some of the emotion characters to be able to do that. So, and it's going to be pivotal moments that those things happen, to where it's There's a lot more cinematics with it. But yeah, I mean, I want to say I said before, like I've never watched an incredible amount of anime. Like I'm probably in like the 15 to 20 range of different animes. And I've taken so much influence from those things. Like big time Dragon Ball, because obviously I love Dragon Ball. Black Clover is a good one to watch. Fire Force, but I wouldn't say to watch those back to back just because it's similar in theme. Attack on Titan was phenomenal. My buddy keeps bugging me to watch One Piece. I can't. I don't know why. There's something about it that's not drawing me to it enough. Like there's nothing that says like, hey, you should watch me. Like I'm a good show. And I've heard a bunch of people tell me like, yo, it's really a good show. Like you should definitely watch it. And I'm just like, I don't know. There's just something about it that doesn't like scream, watch me.
But maybe you should just give it a one shot because, you know, if it's like one person says it, it's one thing. But if more people say it, you never know. And there are, like, for instance, I don't particularly like movies with only subtitles that were shot in different languages. But I have watched a couple where I'm like, this was fucking cool.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't even really care at the point they didn't have subtitles because it's a movie, so you can kind of see what's happening.
Yeah, for sure. Right.
You know what I mean?
No, and I'm different in that aspect because like as an anime fan, like you could watch it subbed or dubbed. You know what I mean?
What does that mean?
Subbed or dubbed. Either you're watching it with subtext or you're watching it dubbed over into English. You know what I mean? And Goku as a character has a Japanese voice actor and then the American voice actor.
Interesting. Okay.
Which his Japanese voice actor is a woman.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and then obviously his American voice actor is a male. But
on TV.
Yeah, like we either watch it subbed or dubbed, and most of the time I always try to watch it subbed because the translation is different. So they might translate something that is a joke in Japanese culture, but when they dub it over into English, it doesn't come off the right way. And as an American listening to it, I'm like, that joke missed because it just wasn't good. But knowing that it's a Japanese culture thing and the way that it's scripted in the subbed, and after comparing those a couple times, like the subtext versus what they say in English, I was like, oh, that's actually funny. You know what I mean? Like the subtext part is funny, whereas the English translation just wasn't. So that's what made me decide to watch subbed anime, is because there's more of a direct correlation to the emotion of what's happening compared to the American thing. They definitely change a lot of it, and you're like, what? That didn't make sense.
I feel like that's kind of like Squid Games a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Especially with what they say. It's like, was it really said like that, or did they add words? Did they remove words?
Yeah.
You know, like what's going on? Why did his moves? Why does it look like he said less words and the Americans said more words?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Let's see. What's up, chat? We got Heather and Num Num. Guys, if you have any questions that you want to ask Legendary Leafies why he's here, we can go through more of his cards. The next one here, which you already know why I brought this one up.
Oh, yeah, Cherry Pie, yeah. So that was one of the characters that's been redrawn, just a little bit better, personally, I believe. That's one of the bad characters that's up in...
This is a bad person?
Yeah. Well,
I'm not bad. I just like Cherry.
No, the redraw definitely makes the character look way more cynical.
Yeah, he looks pretty friendly.
Yeah. There was a reason for that in terms of like making it look less friendly, aside from the show. But yeah, that's one of the bad characters that is in the. So I got in the Gas Kingdom, and just I haven't scripted out a whole lot for that character because I want to say the first season.
Oh shit! I think you're. Did I unplug your phone?
Yeah, you did. You're good though.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
I
Dude.
didn't know it
It's
was
charged
bad.
enough.
Okay.
But I haven't scripted a lot for that character, but because of the nature of like the cherryness and stuff, and like with it being the like the weaved whatever cross whatever with the crust,
Yeah.
like I'm definitely gonna incorporate that into it to where part of the anime too, and I'll go full circle here in a sec, but like part of it too is like there's gonna be fucking violence in it. You know what I mean? And like it's gonna open up like on the very first episode that you see. Like it's gonna be the holy shit, what the fuck am I watching? Because it's just gonna confuse you. Like when you think a animated TV series about cannabis characters that helps teach and or focus about education as an undertone realistically, because if it was just an animated series about cannabis education, I feel like it would be kind of corny. And I love anime script writing, so but yeah, it's gonna open up, and the way that it opens up when people see it is gonna be like, oh shit, like it's this type of show. You know what I mean? And then like as time goes by, they're gonna be like, yo, I would have not expected any of these things to happen in a show that was marketed as this. You know what I mean? And that's gonna be like the attention, like people conversating about it, like, yo, have you watched that? No, it sounds like, no, it's not, dude. And then they're like, oh, okay, I'll give it a try.
See, and that's why you should give your
I know.
perfect psychology. For
Yeah.
yourself. Remember that. Yeah. You want people to watch your shit.
Yeah.
You gotta watch other people's shit.
I've watched enough. I mean, there's people, granted, you know, One Piece, there's not like a million episodes like Bleach or, you know, some of the older ones, but I don't know. I also, though, like, same thing with Naruto. I just feel like Dragon Ball is so sacred to me in terms of anime style that if I watch something that's similar in style, I'm like, I don't want to taint my love for Dragon Ball. Not that it would make me love it any less, but like I just feel like it would muddy the water a little bit. You know what I mean? And that's truly why I will not. I won't say will not with One Piece, but I will not watch Naruto because I truly believe that it would kill that anime style for me. And I have to have like a pivotal show for a type, right? So like Fire Force and Black Clover are very similar in terms of like demonic possession or possession of the main character. Mm-hmm. And I fell in love with Black Clover because of that, like, and because of what happened, the character kind of using that demon possession as a gift and using it to fight evil. And then I went straight to Fire Force, which is almost that same exact thing. And I'm like, you know what I mean? So it kind of like made me not really want to watch it, but I struggled through it because some of the fight scenes I seen on YouTube were like dope. And I was like, all right, I'll watch it. You know what I mean? So then I did, and it's not bad. I just don't like it as much as Black Clover because Black Clover had that instant impact of genre or anime style.
Let's take a look at this so I can understand. Let's see. Black Clover animated series.
And I would say personally, I would say to watch it. I enjoyed it. And there's more to come, which is nice.
It's probably not what you'd think.
I would say
I'm going to talk about a few reasons
it's definitely
why
like
it's special.
like if you were gonna let somebody watch it, it would probably be more appropriate for like a teenager, just because some of the humor styles that's inside of it, and some of like the parody characters, which anime for the most part always seems to have like a girl character that's kind of like the ditzy, cute, stumbling into a provocative situation type character. Like in Dragon Ball, it's Bulma. It definitely has one of those characters in there. And that's kind of similar to what I'm going to be utilizing Harlequin for, as that role, that just kind of like ditzy, nonchalant, just kind of, free of responsibility, but has deep rooted emotional trauma type character. And it's really, really going to allow for phenomenal storytelling. And truthfully, I recognize that style of character in terms of like the deep rooted trauma side from League of Legends Arcane on Netflix. And dude, like, I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan. Like, I mean, I don't have like all the collectors and stuff, but in terms of like storytelling, lore, remembering episodes, like being passionate about it, huge, right? Arcane had more of an emotional impact on me than any animated TV show I've ever watched in my life, because how they implemented the emotional stuff with the character, it wasn't like throw it in your face, hey, I'm a blah, you know what I mean, and made it like super obvious, and then it's like, oh, it's one of these kind of shows, right? The way that they slowly progressed into what one of the main characters like experienced was crazy. Like, there were episodes where I was like bawling, and I was just like, dude, I'm not a crier, but like, you know what I mean? Like it punched big, and I think a lot of it too was, it added reverence to my own experiences. You know what I mean? To where I was just like, whoa, like that was the best way to explain that type of trauma from a subliminal standpoint, that I understood it so much that it had an emotional impact on me. You know what I mean? And I was just like, this, like if I never knew what Dragon Ball was and I didn't have the nostalgic emotional love for it, Arcane would be the best anime I've ever watched.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like, just because of the personal effect that it had on me. Like, it helped me grow emotionally. Like, literally at
Like
32 years old, I was like, I just matured because of an anime show.
like what about the anime show would make a human grow?
So what they did, it like I said, what they did with a phenomenal, to me, is how they portrayed from like square one of something that causes a chain reaction into the degradation of somebody's mental health.
Yep.
And then all of the support that was attempted to be made to try and fix those things for her, the other main character, and then just like how nothing seemed to work. No matter how many times, no matter who it was, nothing seemed to work, right? And then it just got worse, but then it was like she was being bipolar at times, almost like a Schmeagol situation where he was kind of wrestling with
sounds
that.
like small business and entrepreneurship.
Yeah, right. But like it had so much of that, and I'm not gonna say more because I would highly suggest you guys go watch it. But the way that it kind of came to the conclusion of everything that was,
Yeah.
I was just like, dude, this was so freaking cool. Like, thoroughly enjoyed it.
Anybody in chat in the anime that knows or relevant to what he's talking about? I'd love to see if anybody else has kind of that impact, because this is actually the first time I've met somebody who has really said that they've grown off of a series,
Yeah.
and that's powerful, and it's cool that you can identify with a character that's not even as like, yeah, they're human, like they have humanistic characters or characteristics, but at the end of the day, they're cartoons, and to be able to buy in that emotionally, spiritually, and mentally, and be able to
Compartmentalize.
Yep.
Yeah.
The different facets and be self-aware of, wow, this character gone through this, and nothing seems to work, and then something did happen and she was able to be successful. Does the animated series do like a problem solution? How does the series go about conflict and resolution?
Yeah. I mean, most most animes run very, very similar to a traditional movie. If you want to think of it in that standpoint, in terms of like scripting, it's just a difference of it being.
Yeah, so it's gonna
Animated.
have a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah,
Antagonist or protagonist.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah,
problem,
like you said.
solution.
Yeah, problem, solution, misunderstanding of solution, different solution, argument over solution, like all that, all the natural things that people watch in movies in terms of writing styles and stuff like that. All of that's in anime as well. It's just most people don't watch it because they think cartoons are for kids.
Well, to be honest, I'm actually maybe more interested in anime now, mainly because of our conversation. Because to me, I just thought it was just cartoon stuff, and there was, it's just all fighting and kind of like an old school, Bruce Lee movie,
Oh, gotcha.
where, it was more about the action than it was the acting.
Yep.
And, probably not like, kind of like too abstract storytelling for me.
Yeah.
But, I am always trying to get into new things. And, because of us talking, I think I might have you put on some, give me a recommendation of maybe a couple beginner animes just to watch. Because Logan, too bad I can't bring him into the conversation right now, loves anime. He's into Jujutsu Kaisen and all those, and he knows all the characters, and he follows the storyline, and he actually like watches like 5 or 6 different animes and knows everything about everything. Like, so honestly, you should be talking to Logan about this, because you and him could have a really good conversation because of that profound love. But it's cool to hear this, because I, like, the average, person thought, oh, well, this is for kids.
Yeah.
Like, it was cool when I was younger, but, what value does it give me? And now I'm starting to maybe realize that it's kind of like the Disney movies. They have adult humor in it, so it's fun for the adults.
Yep.
And it's relatable.
Yeah.
Sorry, hold on. Logan's being called for. So, with that being said, are you going full animated series? Is that the future of this after the trading card has been, launched and successful, or what's going on?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'm definitely future building with it, because the focus and the attempt here is to create a Marvel-like or DC-like universe.
Okay.
Right? Like creating a universe with these characters to where, in the same way that Marvel has separate, alternate realities and alternate timelines, like
Yep.
I want the flexibility of being able to do something like that with these guys, or even if I only keep it at 5 seasons of like the show, doing like a flashback of, say like Super Lemon Haze, like let's talk about his upbringing, in which I would try my absolute best to look into like the history of Super Lemon Haze, where it came from, who was the original, like all of it, right? Like I would do my absolute best to coordinate with the correct people to obtain the information required to vaguely put that information in there, with permission, of course, if required, but also make it entertaining. You know what I mean? So like, say Super Lemon Haze came from Chico, California, and Stephen Chappell was the originator of the strain, right? I would contact or reach out or try my best to figure out that, to get as much information about that person, or like why or how they came to that strain or whatever, and then build that into the entertaining side of the story to continuously pay homage to where it came from.
That's cool.
Yeah. I'm like, and I'm specifically realistically doing this. Thank you. Because I want to pay homage to the community that made me feel the most welcome after my military service. You know what I mean? And we talked about that on the first podcast. Like,
Well, I think this is podcast number 5.
something like that. Yeah.
I'm thinking you're taking advantage of the platform.
Right.
No, I love having you on.
I was gonna say, we literally just was like,
I think
you want to do a
I think you've been
podcast?
on the podcast more than anybody, like consecutively. Like, I don't know if I've interviewed somebody 5 times
let's see. So you did the first one with me solo, and then the second one we did was with a guest.
We met here before we met here.
Yep.
We did Vegas.
Oh shit. Yeah, yeah.
After Vegas, we did a podcast when you became a sponsor.
Yep.
So that's 4. So 4 podcasts.
No, then we just did with Master Yoda before we went to the comedy.
That's 5. Yep.
yeah,
So that's
so
5.
yeah.
That's cool. High
Yeah.
five, dude. Breaking records together.
Right.
That's cool. That's a Smoke Busters record.
Hell yeah. We'll have to do one more before I leave the Florida.
That sucks that you're leaving. I love that you're in the area and
know.
everything. But now I'll have to come to Florida to visit you.
Very true.
And you'll have to tell me how the weed scene is in Florida, because from what I hear, it's like, it's very different.
Yeah. Well, and it's medicinal only there. So I'll have to navigate that in terms of getting a card. But we'll see. You know what I mean? Like I think the larger difference there in terms of business potential is that they have a lot of the dispensaries there, where Virginia doesn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I mean, whether I'm going medicinally or not while I'm there, it's like I can still go to the damn store and have you know what I mean? Like I'm not here to buy product. I'm actually here to speak with whoever's in charge to see, introduce, network, like all of that stuff. 'Cause mostly it's like, I want to get it to where, I mean, realistically, I would love for these cards and this product to be in like Spencer's.
Yeah. Well, I think, this is one of your goals.
Yeah,
and
it's the
this is where it belongs.
Yeah, it's the perfect marketplace for it. Like,
It's a
if you-
perfect gift, too.
Well,
Throw in
yeah.
stocking stuffers, just add to it.
Yep. Yeah, if you want, for your local favorite stoner, like buy him a box of fucking legendary Leafies cards. Get
Well, you
one
put
of
them
the-
right next to the Pokemon cards at Walmart and Target when you check out.
Yeah, so the only difference with that is because of what it represents, right? Although I have spoken directly with Walmart and Target, and they would not have an issue with it, only because they also sell like socks that have leaves all over them and underwear that have leaves all over them, and you know what I mean. Like they sell a bunch of cannabis affiliated
They do.
product. So that would be the only exception. But at the same time, I don't want that argument to be made. And the reason why Spencer's is because Spencer's has an age gate process.
Yeah, but a lot of these, looking at them, I
none
don't
of them.
see
Yeah,
weed.
yeah, none of them. You'll see no.
I see
characters.
holographic.
Yeah,
Well, that's one holographic per pack that's in the back.
Yep. Yeah, you'll see no characters
Yeah.
either.
So that's what I'm
using-
saying. It's like, this is totally safe for work.
Yeah. But I mean, like with Spencer's having like that age gate process to where they have like the vetting process of verifying that you're 18 for purchases, that just made far more sense to me. And I feel like part of that trading card market that is kind of like that, and I say this in a positive light, but kind of like that emo kid that plays Yu-Gi-Oh or like whatever, like they also shop at Spencer's. You know what I mean? Because that was a significant amount of my friend group in high school.
Well, you can buy the shirts there and
Yeah.
some of the memorabilia.
Yeah.
And,
You know what I mean? So, and it's like, what a perfect location. And they have, smoking they have roll trays. They have roll trays there with Cheetos logos on it.
Nice.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, if nobody's getting on them for having a Cheetos bag logo, which is definitely, youth friendly, if you will, then I don't think this is going to be an issue. You know what I mean? Because in the same way that they might say, oh, it's for tobacco use. Yeah, me too. You know what I mean? You want to play a stupid game, then we'll play it. And thankfully, nobody's brought that up. It was kind of surprising that nobody has brought that up in terms of the age distinction for this. You know what I mean? And that will never be any of my intents. It's literally catering towards people our age. You know what I mean? Like the people that grew up watching Dragon Ball, the people that grew up with Pokemon cards as like the first edition guys. Like it's geared towards those guys that appreciate both the entertainment, both the collectible, like all of that. So But yeah, the main goal is to get it to be an animated series, and then you look at, depending on popularity, you look at what else that brings. Could you imagine having like a freaking a cherry pie shoe deal, like a shoe that was modeled after the character, right? Because LaMelo Ball, I think, he just did a shoe deal where his shoes were modeled after the Ninja Turtles in terms of color scheme, and they actually look pretty cool. Would I ever wear them? No, because that's not the type of shoe that I wear. Would I have collected that shoe? Maybe, if I was a shoe collector. Probably, if I was a shoe collector, because I thought it was very visually pleasing to look at. But I think of things like that, and I'm just like, dude, what could this really expand into? Like, you look at shoe deals, you look at apparel deals, you look at sponsors, character sponsorship for athletes, like, you know what I mean? Like collaborations with celebrities that would potentially do voiceovers for the characters.
Yep.
Like, think if you had, like, say we throw Mike Tyson's Strain into the TV show for like its own spinoff, you know, with like a different character or whatever, and we throw Mike Tyson's character. Well, wouldn't it be fucking insane if you had Mike Tyson voicing his own strain, representing his own strain?
Yeah.
Even if it was just like a couple parody, you know, voiceover, or just some funny shit, or like, say we put him as like created a character after his strain that was also a boxer, you know, and he just went and maybe he knocked somebody out, like stuff like that, you know what I mean? To where it allows the people and the celebrities and the people who advocate on behalf of cannabis education and cannabis legality, it allows them to be a voice without putting their face to it. You know what I mean? So again, one of them is Khalifa Kush, right? Wiz Khalifa. Imagine if I created a character for Khalifa Kush and Wiz Khalifa voiced that character, or Snoop Dogg, or Willie Nelson, or like.
Num num. Yes, if you would like to get a pack, we could get you a pack. Just send me a DM if anybody wants a pack, and I'll get Legendary Leafies to send them out. We'd love for you guys to have them.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break so I can go to the bathroom real quick, and then we'll be back. So enjoy my halftime break, and we will see you guys shortly.
that are battling PTSD and anxiety. Legendary Leafies blends education with empowerment, helping veterans and others feel proud and not ashamed of their mental health journey.
When I get low, there's somewhere I like to go. Out walking with my shadow and my garden friend. Oh, Yahweh, I know you got me in hand. Though I am tired, you help me stand. But will I be okay?
We are back. Hope you guys like my middle of the video break. It's really cool, and I'm going to be upgrading it as we go here. We got the wide, we got the legendary, and we got us. All right. Oops, I gotta turn this down or I'll hear an echo. So yeah, make sure that if you want a free pack, all you gotta do is just go to Instagram, send me a DM, and we'll get you sent out. I'm gonna have a lot of packs that I'll be giving away, so believe me, there will be plenty of time, and they're really cool. And as you've heard tonight, they're heavily crafted with inspiration, dedication, and a little bit of nostalgia. Your love from Dragon Ball Z to just going forward. Why Dragon Ball Z? Like, what about Dragon Ball Z makes it like your sweet spot for anime? Like, why that one?
Yeah, for me, it's everything that Goku represents as a character, in that he has a playful, loving nature, truly loves his friends, and is willing to sacrifice his life for them. And he is just incredibly powerful for no reason. And his reason is that he always challenges, he seeks out challenge. You know what I mean? And he knows why, because he wants to be the best fighter everywhere, in the cosmos, in all the universes. Like, he wants to be the best, and he wants to fight the best. But he's also like this blissfully naive goofball that just doesn't understand a lot of things. And I think that resonated with me super early, right? Because a lot of it is what I was as a teenager when I really started paying attention to it. Because there were Saturday commercials where it would be on, and I would watch it, and then it was like, oh, I can watch anime, and then it was like start over from square one. But yeah, just that blissfully naive, carefree nature, but loves everybody in your circle, you know what I mean? Just genuinely nice to everybody, but also the ability to flip the switch. You know what I mean?
Get a little wild.
Yeah, would probably a bigger reason why I joined the Marine Corps, or an attributable reason, because it was I can be this phenomenal human being, but there's a switch too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially when it comes to your friends, your family, if anybody ever tried to mess with hunting, I would not be so nice.
Yeah.
Especially with my family. So yeah, no, I think you have to have that, and that's a duty to yourself, and it's also, you know, like that power behind it. It's where you have the power to be nice and create peace, but you also have the power to, you know, create chaos. And you know, there's a time and place for everything, and sometimes, you know, it works.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that. And then like the peace through strength, or the representation of power. I do like that mindset, because it's like, I mean, you want to be at least somewhat perceived as a potential threat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it's like the application of it, if needed ever, is what definitely matters. You know what I mean? Because most very large individuals, in terms of muscle mass, like, they look intimidating. You know what I mean? But a good amount of them are great human beings. You know what I mean? Like, and you're like, whoa, I never would have expected. Like, look at Brian Shaw from Colorado, world's strongest man, and he's just a colossal human being, like, enormous human being. But it's like, dude, he looks like he's also one of the coolest people you could ever hang around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so that's kind of like Goku. You know what I mean? Like, he's intimidating because he knows how to fight, and everybody always talks about him, and everybody runs to him for safety. But once you meet him, you're like, whoa, how did you de-escalate a situation just by having a conversation? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I think that's the answer right there, is having a conversation. Most people, you know, and I've experienced it, you know, through the community, through just friendships, through business relationships, is, you know, not a lot of people know how to talk about when they're upset, and how to deal with emotions properly. And that's why you see it taking to social media all the time.
Yep.
You know, and I think, you know, that's a great example, you know, and now I'm kind of seeing how you can learn kind of like from anime. If you paid attention to the characters and really had like a situational awareness for really what's going on in the character's life and mind, you know, that I think there's a great detail. And I do like that, because, you know, it's one thing to be angry and enraged, and you kind of see it right now with like all the rioting. But what does that do? It causes property destruction. It, you know, small businesses get hurt the most. You know, it, you know, it causes delay. It disrupts the city. You know, it does all this when nobody really wants to do the long, drawn-out process, which would be the right way, which is, you know, creating one voice and everything. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what I feel like is, like, if we want change, you know, kind of like what you probably saw in Dragon Ball Z, because I did not follow the series, but is like, it's done through the community, and it's done through right action and moral and aspect, you know, and patience. I think patience is a big thing. And when it comes to communication today, it's about instant gratification. And I feel this way, and I want the world to know. And, you know, you made me feel this way, and now I want you to hurt. You know, I didn't like this, so instead of talking to you, I just did that. And, you know, it's troublesome, because I think a lot of what we go through in life and in relationships and people, it's like a 5-minute conversation. It's kind of like, you know, they say, what is it? A meeting that should have been an email. Kind of like in the common sense of that. Something so minor, and then like, you know, it goes all the way up the chain to something explosive, and it's like, how did we get here?
No, I agree, big time. And I think a big part of it is like the mindset that some people adopt. And, you know, obviously, like, not that I tread lightly in terms of hurting somebody's feelings, but I more so tread lightly in terms of like wanting to make sure that my viewpoint is understood from a non-malicious point of view. But there truly is a victim mindset, but then there's also an agitator behavior that knows how to use that victim mindset of people that don't feel heard to stir up and say, hey, your only way to be actually heard is to physically do something. And you let God be the judge in terms of when that is. You know what I mean? And it's not for me to say, so I'm just not gonna say. But Yeah, it's definitely unique, whether political or not political, just human behavior, in terms of how people can take something that seems so minuscule and just turn it into this red star cluster, and you're just like, whoa, what just happened? You know what I mean? I've had it in my life a couple times, and I'm just like, what? Hey, what? Huh? Like, why didn't you just call me, text me, say something to me? You know what I mean? And then it was just like, okay, and I just walked away from it because I'm like, this is so far from not even the base reality of what happened. You know what I mean? Like, so I was just like, I'm good. You know what I mean? And like at first you kind of feel bad for walking away from it because you're like, I feel like I'm not giving them justification, or I feel like I'm not. And at the end of the day, it's like, do it for yourself and your own mental health in walking away, but also do it understanding that some people don't want an actual answer. They just want whatever it is, the justification of their current emotions, which some people that's violence, some people that's verbal violence, if you will, and some people that's social media engagement. You know what I mean? And it's like, it sucks because it's like, can't we all just get along? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, that's why
but-
I think the biggest thing is to be invested and just kind of be in your own world, doing your own thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best place to be because, you're not looking at other people. You're not comparing apples to oranges. You're in your own experience. And when you're around people who are also in their own experience and really driving and pushing and, trying to make something out of nothing, that's where the power is built. They say somebody that's doing better than you will never criticize you for what you're doing. You know what I mean? And that's because they understand and know what it's like to be in your position because they once were. It's the chaos in the world and the confusion that spreads this, whether it's self-inflicted and like imposter syndrome where you don't feel worthy, so how could you feel somebody else is worthy? I do a lot of things where I get in my head and do like the 80-20 where I'm just filling myself up with all these feelings, and now all of a sudden I'm pissed off. I wrote a blog called Waking Up with Turmoil. I don't know if you read it, but it's really good and talks about when you wake up angry and you wake up pissed off from your dreams, because my dreams, I have a lot of unresolved conflict with people and situations. So in my dreams, sometimes there's a lot of like just drama, whether it's family, whether it's situational, whether it's, I dreamed I was at the airport and that my flight got delayed 12 hours and I was pissed off. Like, I'm always on the airplane for some reason. I'm always flying somewhere. But then there's times where I'm flying outside the airplane and I'm like looking down and it's crazy. But, I think the biggest thing is, we've come so far as a civilization and, technology and humanity from communication. And I think with AI, it's a blessing and a curse. And, I think having organic conversations and knowing how to channel emotions and deal with other people's realities or thoughts, that's a skill set, and it's hard to say, hey, you're different and I accept that. It's much easier to be like, whoa, you don't need to be around me. You're not who I am. And I think the biggest thing is, that's why I push so much for mental health is simple conversations. Something so simple could, just do so much wonder. And yet there's just so much I don't know why, don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect either. I get in my feelings, I think things I shouldn't, whatever. But at the same time, it's like, whenever that happens, I just go back to doing something for myself, like making a blog post or, working on my website or doing whatever to distract me. and that gets me back on track. And I just wish people could really invest in themselves, because the ability to invest in yourself and to get somewhere is honestly easy. It's just a discipline.
Yep.
You know, and it's to be able to just tune out the world. You know.
Definitely. Yeah, and kind of to your point is like with like AI and what social media is. I personally, I think social media killed our opportunity to communicate as a generation, right? Because we went straight to MySpace, in which you had a top 5 friends, and then if you weren't on my top 5 friends, somehow you weren't my friend in real life. And then if somebody made a petty remark or a petty comment or whatever on social media, then it became, did you see what they said? Did you see what he said? Did you see what they responded? And or it was the justification of feelings, whereas before then, like, you had to go internal and fix it yourself, right? Where now you just put your emotion on social media and have everybody justify your feelings. And I get it to a certain extent. I totally understand. But it just becomes I don't need to fix the things that cause me issues, because I have all these people telling me there's nothing wrong with me. And not wrong in a, hey, there's something wrong with you, but like, hey, there's a deeper rooted trauma. There's things that are happening in your psyche that you need to be equipped to power through at times. You know what I mean? And that's what I mean by wrong, right? So social media took all that away. It personally took away my ability to be confident enough to speak to girls when I was younger. You know what I mean? Because I was like, and it was the keyboard concept, right? I can talk, hey girl, hey, you're cute, fucking whatever. But the moment we were together, it was the awkward, like, do I sit by you at the movies type shit. And I hated that happened in my life, because I'm like, dude, I'm a confident individual. You know what I mean? Now, obviously, I'm married, but like, I hated it. You know what I mean? Like, girls in high school, whenever I would try to talk to them, and I was a virgin all the way until I was 18. Literally nothing.
Same.
Like, nothing ever happened. And I'm just like, this sucks. You know what I mean? Because you're like, my friends are out there doing their thing, and they're asking you, yo, you got some, and you know, what are you going to say? Like, but actually, I was honest with mine. And I never really had a reason outside of like, yo, I'm trying, you know? But there was like a time where I was talking to this chick, and she's like, oh, I heard you're a player. And I'm like, how? What? Like, bro, I had like 3 girlfriends all of high school. You know what I mean? Like, and never slept with a single one of them.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how am I a player? Like, but it was just because of how I communicated on social media to other people compared to how I was in real life. You know what I mean? And I was not a player, but it could have been perceived that way because of my social media engagement. So I was just like, oh, yeah. Nah, this is stupid. I don't like social media no more. So I went on like a binge, like, especially, you know, early on in the Marine Corps, I really didn't need social media because I was actually having human interactions with people. But, you know, even I didn't use it a lot early in my career. And then when I went on recruiting, I kind of had to, because it's recruiting. Like, you need to put your message out there so people can engage with you, try to talk to them, try to get them to join, whatever. But then after recruiting, I deleted everything aside from Snapchat.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is how I talk to some of my friends. And then once I decided to make the business, that's when I built a Facebook for myself again, added all my friends, you know, mutual friends, military friends, veterans, like all that stuff. But even now, I'm still contemplating, like, do I need my Facebook? No. You know what I mean? Like, I'll just, for like 90 days or whatever, I'll push everybody over to the business Instagram, and once that's done, it's done. I'm not a fan. You know what I mean? I love the engagement on the business aspect of it, right? But I now fear social media compared to when I used to use it as a crutch. You know what I mean? And I don't have any, like, either left wing or right wing. I don't have any, like, radical opinions. But there are some things that I'm like, man, I feel this way. But if I was to say that on social media, Like a lot of people would downplay who I am in my business because of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, there are some opinions that you truly need to keep to yourself.
This is true.
Like, and it, like I said, it's nothing crazy. If anything, the context of them are from a religious standpoint. So it's like, I don't personally think they're crazy. Some people might, but yeah, I'm just like, dude, if I blast that out there and I say my opinion on that, like, I'm going to get significantly more hate. Then people are going to be angry at me. And I'm just like, dude, I don't want the time for that. 2, I don't have the time for that. 3, I don't even like negative interactions. You know what I mean? Like every married couple has argued, right? But like when my wife used to be like, oh yeah, when we had that argument, and I'm like, this was my voice. We weren't arguing. You know what I mean? Like, and I always try to, like, whenever we used to have arguments, because we haven't had like an actual argument in a long time now, but let me go home and fix that. No, but like, I'd be like, babe, we didn't argue. We had a hard discussion. You know what I mean? Like a complicated discussion about something that we disagreed on. But I don't think it's an argument if you're not like, you know, that critical moment where somebody's like, bleh, and freaks the fuck out. But I mean, I could see it from like, that's almost like a semantics argument of argument or not. So I don't know. I just love people, and I love being around people too much to even engage in stuff. You know what I mean? Like I said, there was that person that commented on our collab video, and I was just like, there's no point. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to dislike your comment enough to say something. Because I personally don't know you. You personally don't know me. Like, you don't know what my intentions are. You don't know, you know what I mean? Like, you know nothing about me, and you're going to say something like that. Like, okay, that's fine. Live your life. If I ever met you, I'd shake your hand, say nice to meet you, and have a good day. You know what I mean? Like, but you know, people are people, and like I said before, like if it can feed the social media engagement that they want, if it does, it does. But I'm not going to feed into it. Like I don't have the time, nor the declaration or the want. Like, yeah.
No, I'm with you 100%. It's just one of those things. It's, you know, you're constantly serving two people: the person that's full of regret and worried about what everybody else thinks in the past, and the person that's trying to move forward in the future. And you can only serve one person at one time. That's what my therapist tells me all the time. And that's one thing I try to focus on is like, who am I serving? Am I serving the person that gets me to that next level? Or am I just serving the victim, you know, mentality of, you know, poor me, the world's attacking? I mean, you see it in politics, you see it in, you know, entertainment, you know, you see it in rappers and everything. It's just drama. I mean, it's just natural. It's where are you spending your time?
Yep. Yeah, and I think, I mean, just in terms of like, just in general, I think time and money does run everything, but when you manage it responsibly, you start to realize the power that you have over it. You know what I mean? Like when everybody freaks out about the economy at times, and I'm just like, okay, so get rid of some things. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. Everybody wants a certain lifestyle, and everybody wants to be comfortable in that lifestyle, and I agree that you should absolutely be comfortable in your lifestyle. But sometimes there's necessary sacrifices. So if it's like you're running into a hard time with money, but you have an Amazon, a Netflix, a Hulu, a Disney Plus, you know what I mean? And it's like, bro, that's what, like $100 in subscriptions when there's other ways to watch things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm like, bro, make some sacrifices, put that money where it needs to go for a couple months, and then you can come back. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't know. But I also say that from a naive standpoint, having been a service member with a guaranteed paycheck of every 2 weeks, right? So I'll straight up claim that. But that doesn't mean that I grew up with money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and dude, even more so, I grew up, and it's not like a who's worse, right? But like, I grew up with so little money that when I joined the Marine Corps and got money for the first time, I became immediately broke because I didn't know anything about financial responsibility. And I was like, oh, I have money now. Let me just go spend it because I have it to spend. And then I got down to like 30 cents in my bank account to my name, like no savings, nothing. Had to ask my best friend for $10 for a haircut, and that shit was the most embarrassing thing I've ever done. And then I was like, yeah, I'll never be here again.
Yep.
And then I never was there again, and personally did extremely well for myself. Like, so yeah, it's crazy, but I actually was thinking about it the other day too, in terms of like education. I firmly believe that they need, because when I was in high school, they had a home economics, right, where they taught you a little bit about government, and that was probably kind of it, honestly. I think they need a intro to business class, or we'll just call it like, I don't want to say culture. I don't know. It would be intro to something, whatever would represent like the combination of college and or entrepreneurship. But they need to have people sit down during that home economics class and just have it be part of the curriculum, where they have you analyze what is the cost of college, what is the return, like, oh, you say you want to go to college for this. Okay, let's do a full financial sheet on what that really looks like, right? And the likelihood and the percentages and the this, and that. And then if you say, I don't want to go to college, or say, here was my college plan, and here is my business plan for whether it's work or whatever, like, and then you can sit there and teach a young developing adult in the American society, like, cost comparison. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you could work in this industry and it only requires a high school education, but in 6 years, you're going to be making 6 digits from the stats behind it, right? Like theoreticals, compared to, again, we're just going off of basic here, 4 years of college, and then maybe an internship depending on your career field or whatever. And it almost puts you, depending on your education field, it almost puts you immediately 2 or more years behind the guy that just worked for 6 years. You know what I mean? So it's like, I get it. There needs to be educated people to educate other people. But I don't know. I'm more of a fan of like tech schools. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. I love history, especially being a Marine. Like, really, really love Marine Corps history. But I think it's valuable, 100%. I think where we are right now, I think the tech skills definitely have a level of importance.
Well, yeah, because now they're being wiped out, literally.
Well, yeah, that too. Yeah.
And you know, everybody chases these higher end jobs, but the skilled trades are very important, and they need more like welders and plumbers and everything.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting because it's like, could you imagine, and for the better, how much that would change the culture of America if we just taught the youth how to be fiscally and financially responsible in their career and life choices, instead of just feeding this consumerism mindset of, if you want it and you feel like you want it, just buy it. Like, fuck the debt, I'll just buy it. And it's like, or don't. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's saying or don't. Like, so, and don't get me wrong, I have nice things. I'm relatively frugal, but I'm only frugal because I have a business. You know what I mean? And it's like learning how to manage money. So when I get to where I want to be, then things may be different in terms of the things that I have. You know what I mean? Like, do I want to be able to afford a really nice house? Absolutely. Do I want to be able to build a house that's custom to mine and my wife's desires and for it being a forever home? Duh. But that means sacrifice early. You know what I mean? Like, so, but I also want to be able to give back. Like, so I put on Facebook 2 days ago where a lot of people will come out and say like, oh, never hire your friends or don't ever do business with friends, right? And I'm like, I can see that from a certain point of view. Like, I get it. But at the same time, if you have respectful friends, for one, but two, if you respect your friends, that's when you set up a program or a process and say you were one of my friends from high school and I'm like, dude, we've been friends for this long. I'm not going to bring you along for the potential ride that I'm about to go on in terms of everything that this represents, right? So I bring you along and I say, hey, money-wise, I'm hiring you for this position. I need you to do these things, just like a regular job interview and a regular job placement. But you have whatever time, X amount of time to either build your own business, right? Or create something within my business that makes you something you created within the business. So now you have an emotional tie to it. Mm-hmm. Instead of what I see a lot of times is people just say, hey, I got you, bro. I got you, bro. I got you, bro. And then it's like, bro, what are you doing? You're just riding my coattails. You know what I mean? It leads to a disconnect. And then it's, oh, you switched up. Oh, you're a piece of shit, man. Fuck you. You're a bum. I brought you along. Like, it turns into that. And it's like, or you could have just built them and had them establish other things. So that way when it was like, hey, bro, I helped you get here. I helped you get to where you're at right now. I'm still here, but now you're here. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to say lifted. I helped you get to a better spot. Mm-hmm. Like, that to me is respectful as a friend, is to build them up, involve them in your circle, like do everything you can for them to have a foundation again, and then be like, all right, you got it? You got it. Okay, you got it. You know what I mean? And be like, cool. If say I have a buddy that starts making the roll trays, and I'm like, sweet, I need somebody who makes roll trays. So boom, now I work with you, and the money stays in the friendship circle. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'd much rather do that than see and or participate in the potential of losing a friend over a business situation. Like, it's just not worth it to me.
No, I feel you. All right, to wrap this up, we are going to go ahead and where can people find you?
Legendary Leafies on Instagram is the number one best place to go. I would highly request that if you guys have dispensaries and smoke shops or whatever that like you frequent, try to connect with them. And when I make an order for like the next/first edition of trading cards, and you were the person that connected me with that smoke shop to facilitate them doing like a wholesale deal, truly believe that I will compensate you for that transaction. You know what I mean? Because it's like they're doing the business for me.
You said like 90% commission?
Oh, I don't know about 90%. You got to be realistic. But, it's something that it'll definitely be worth your while, obviously, depending on the quantity purchased and a percentage and all that stuff. So, but yeah, just the Instagram page. If you guys work at a dispensary, like, I just love networking with people and seeing where an opportunity can go. So that's the best place is Instagram.
Perfect. Do you have a website?
I do. Yeah, it's legendaryleafies.com. Nothing's for purchase right now, just because I'm in the process of moving to Florida, and that's a lot of like moving parts, packing stuff up.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have it packed, unpack it, ship it, all the headache part of things. So, but yeah, I mean, by all means, poke around in there on legendaryleafies.com. Provide feedback. You know what I mean? Like, I always enjoy feedback. good or bad, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to take offense to anything. If you think that the homepage sucks, tell me the homepage sucks. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to hurt my feelings. I'd rather cater towards a consumer of my product than say, oh, no, but this homepage makes me feel good.
Yeah,
You know
true.
what I mean? So, yeah, those are the two places to go to be able to connect for sure. And again, I appreciate all connections.
Perfect. Well, once again, thank you for being our bronze sponsor.
Sir.
Thank you for being on here. We'll try to get connected a couple more times before you leave. When do you actually leave? What date?
It's like July 20th.
Okay, so we still have time.
Yeah.
So we'll have to have a farewell podcast.
Mm.
Wait, July 20th?
Yeah, that's the same weekend as the CannaFest up in DC.
Is it really? Because Yoda is coming down in July.
Yeah.
So depending on when he comes down, we'll definitely get together again as well. So a couple of different times.
Yep.
But
for
yeah,
sure.
that's going to be cool though. I'm really excited for you for the move and everything.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
it's gonna be fun. I'm a fan of Florida, so it'll be cool to live there.
Well, guys, we have more podcasts coming your way. Next week, I think we have somebody. If not, I'll be making posts. We have 3 great people, and I'm featuring somebody that was on Soft White Underbelly. So, pretty awesome. So, guys, we will see you guys soon. Go to madmanplant.com. Have a wonderful night, and peace out. Where's my mouth? There it is. Peace.